Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I think you pronounced my name perfectly, Jin Kuye. So I am representing SCD Probiotics, and today I'll be speaking about SCD and Proviera technology for a product that can be used to process a rawhide into finished leather. I think if you remember Dr. Shivaram Pirai presentation yesterday, this technology basically we license our technology to our licensee partner in India, and they further develop the technology, and we license the technology back into SCD company. So just a broad overview of my presentation. I'm going to be speaking a little bit about products that I'm speaking of that we can use for leather processing industry, and also I'm going to show you some data that generated in the lab, and also from our actual customer that they're actually using our technology to compare to what they are doing currently. So it's a comparative data. Basically, the customer or potential customer, they're trying to validate our technology comparing to the current usage of the chemical products. Thank you. So, let's see. Okay, so I think perhaps I don't have to go through a lot of these, but generally speaking, this is just a wonder about our consortia technology. So I think you are used to using the consortia technology to produce live microbes to use for human health, animal, agricultural. This technology or product is very unique in a way that it is not the live microbes, but it is the metabolite that produced through fermentation process under the control quality process. And it can be used to replace a lot of toxic chemical that's used currently in leather processing industry. I think Shira mentioned a little bit about how we combine these processes. I'm not going to, basically, it's a combination of consortia microbes. We introduce them, and then we introduce some selective food media, and through spatial process of reformulation, it generates very unique metabolites. And this metabolite is not enzymes. It actually is some type of biochemicals. So just a little bit of an overview of what happened when you process a rawhide into finished leather. So as you can see, usually it takes about a ton of a hide to produce roughly about 250 kg of finished leather. You can see that the input that you use going in is like a fresh water, some traditional chemicals, some traditional chemical auxiliary, and also some energy to run some equipment. What happened is come out with water, but it is nasty water. You can see the level of COD, some BOD, level of suspended solid, and there are many other chemicals that come out as part of the wastewater, but the two noxious one is the chromium and sulfide. On top of that, because of the process of converting of rawhide into finished leather, you need to remove some fat, some hairs. So there are a significant amount of solids that come out by waste from the process. Okay, so what our technology can do. Okay, so that biochemical that I mentioned to you using our technology is actually a chemical auxiliary. So our goal is really to be able to replace majority of the use of these chemical auxiliaries. And what we have found currently is that the impact to the process is that it helps reduce the amount of COD and BOD. On top of that, it helps with the sludge, which is the big environmental impact to the wastewater treatment process. On top of using our product as a chemical auxiliary for the leather processing process, our technology actually have some indirect impact. What we have found is actually it makes the use of the chemical much more efficient. So I think the goal is really if it uses more efficient, meaning we can reduce the output of the byproduct from the process, such as chromium and sulfide, meaning we can use less, and therefore the waste going into the environment is become less. Okay, so these are the three key examples of our product used for the conversion of fresh hide into leather product. At the high level, a process of making leather, basically there are two key operations. One is called beam house process, the other one called wet end process. Our product focuses currently for the beam house process. Just a beam house process is basically a process of changing fresh raw hide into a thick material called wet blue. Imagine if you take like a fresh skin, you put in a boiling water, what happens is turn into gelatin, right? So it's very perishable. On the other hand, once you go through that process and put some chemical, remove some fat, it turns into something called wet blue, which is very stable. So imagine you take your shoes, put in the boiling water, what you get is actually like a hot, wet shoes, and potentially angry wife if you have done it in the kitchen. So, well, anyhow, like I said, the process is basically you convert fresh hide into something super stable. As you know, fresh hide coming from slaughterhouse, they are very perishable. Okay, first thing they do is to preserve it. Typical process of preserving those fresh hides are refrigeration, curing with salt. What happens is dries up. So the first thing that we do is basically rehydrate these material. And that process typically called soaking. So we have product called Pro Soak. What it does is really have that wetting ability. So what is allowed for water to rehydrate and get absorbed into these dry skin so it can swell up and then it can go through further process. Our second product is a Pro Spray. Its key characteristic is dispersing ability. So during this process, I'm not really tanner, but generally speaking, you want to take something out from the skin material, and then what you want to put something that you want in so that it can fix and make it become stable material so you can make a leather. So the Pro Spray, that the functionality is basically kind of interchanging what you don't want going out, like hyaluronic acid, for example, and then put some chemicals such as chromium into the material. And the third product is Pro Degrease, and primarily it's basically degreasing process. As you can imagine, most of the hide, like cow hide, sheepskin, they contain a lot of fat. So the process is basically to remove fat and also to remove hair, because your shoe doesn't have any hair except some of the fur material, of course. So just a brief summary. This is kind of basically based on some of the information. Oh, I'm sorry. This is just a recap of our product. So it's a biochemical product produced from fermentation process. It can be used to replace a lot of traditional leather processing chemicals. It is not enzyme-based product. And most importantly, it is 100% biodegradable. I will show you some lab data later that confirm the products are biodegradable. So it's all natural. It's not toxic. I don't know how much of you are familiar with the leather processing process, but a lot of chemical that used for this industry is very, very toxic. So this allows a lot safer environment for the user in the tanning. So because of the product, like I said, Pro Soak, Pro Sweat, and Pro Degrease have some kind of unique characteristic. One is wetting, one is dispersing, and one is degreasing. It allows actually ability to use product in multiple applications throughout this beam house or wet end process. Okay, so just a little bit about feature of the Pro Soak. Again, is help rehydration, and some of these data that said about help reduce processing time, increase the performance of unhairing process, And also to, these are actual information that we collected when we do some comparative study or trial, validation trial with our customer or potential customer. Pro-spray is also typically, like I mentioned earlier, used in beam house process. And also because it's as a dispersing agent, we have found through our trial with our customer that it can actually be used during wet end process to help with the dye penetration process. And then the last one is the third product is called Pro-Degrease. So in general summary of these products, basically what we have found is that it's really natural. It's non-toxic, and it produces less foam, which I can gonna go later. What happens is that when you generate a lot of foam, you need to use a lot of water to remove the foam, and more water mean more pollution to the industry. More processing time mean more money. So it's a way to reduce waste at the same time conserve energy and make more money. So our target, the goal of SCD Probiotics and Proviera and also ProClean India is we want to be able to get into the market to replace roughly about 15% of the market. That's basically 3 to 5 years from now. I will come back later, you know, what it does. So now I'm going to show you, like I mentioned earlier, some of the information that we have done in the lab. And so also we have done with our current customer and potential customer around the world, basically to validate our technology comparing to the traditional chemicals. I'm not showing all the information that I have. The information that I have here is really focusing primarily on the impact of our product on performance, but mostly how it impacts waste. So that's basically the goal of my presentation. As you can see, this is the trial that we have done in Colombia. It's a beam house process, so basically again changing rawhide into wet brew process. So you can see that this is their standard they have been practicing with the traditional chemical. This is with our products, SCD Proviera technology. There's some significant reduction of COD, BOD, chloride, ammonia, and nitrogen. So these are basically key impact to a wastewater management treatment. Let's see. Second, a trial that we try to validate so that they can adopt and using our technology to replace traditional chemical is done in China. It's done with the chip screen. So in this process, we only test it with the degreasing process only. So what we have found, again, consistently significant reduction of ammonia and COD. And the fat content, even though it's a little bit less, but at 5% is, you know, is not significant. So as I said earlier, the product, unlike traditional chemicals such as surfactant, those usually generate a lot of foam. So you can see in this sample drum, there's a little bit of a, you know, hardly no foam. Comparing to the standard, there's a significant amount of foam. What it means that, like, again, you have to wash it many times, a lot of water, more wastewater, more energy. So in summary, basically we able to achieve what customer feedback also that they have found that the result of degreasing or the finished leather is similarly to the, you know, what they have done with the chemical products. So I think next up is a trial done in Germany, and I think now they have become our current customer also, and China also now is they are our customer. So again, there are some benefit of which I didn't show here in the table, but there's a reduction of COD from 7.67 into 9.99 milligram from the standard process. And this special process called lambing, delambing, and bathing, typically they use some traditional chemical called dicarboxylic acid and surfactants. So we completely replace those with our product, basically Pro-Spread and Pro-Decrease. And we're able to achieve the same results and also have the, I think some of you already know that the surfactant, traditional surfactant, let's say like detergent, when they use a lot, when you put down into the waste treatment system, it creates lots of environmental problems. So when you get rid of the use of surfactant, you improve the impact to invest water or the environment. This is a trial done in Spain. So the process is basically trying to use cowhides through washing and dyeing process. Dyeing, basically, I think you understand, is basically use some coloring agent and then stain the material before you further polishing into finished leather. What we have seen, again, we're able to reduce or completely eliminate the use of oxalic acid and surfactants. And we have found that we can eliminate the use of ammonia, chemical dye dispersion, chemical dye auxiliary. And you can see this is our technology. This is standard, again, a lot of foams. You can see that it's appear that the pickup of the dye is better with our technology because it's appear that the color there is still a little bit darker. So that's basically better dye penetration. And what is significant is also we don't have to do any pH reduction. As you can imagine, typical pH reduction, you have to use some strong acid or strong alkali. And those usually are toxic and have some environmental impact. Okay, I'm not sure if the color represent well, but what we have found that the finished leather quality in terms of dye and polishing, they are similar to the standard. Okay, and we last but not least, we have done some trial with our potential customer in the USA in the beam house process. So again, the trial we have found that we're able to replace a lot of normal chemical degreaser, and also which not represent here the surfactant. And I think the key thing that we have found through this process is that the process that we use as a result of using our technology is less. So again, there's that part of the energy consumption safer. Okay, this data represent the information that we have done in the laboratory. Basically, it's a respiratory testing comparing the OUR, which is oxygen uptake rate, against time. What it tells you is actually to show whether the product is biodegradable and also whether the product will have impact to nitrifying bacteria, which what it means is that it can have some significant impact to activate the slush process. So we tested all our three products, the Pro-Spread, and you can see where we inoculated against some of the ammonia standard. We have tested on Pro-Decrease. Generally, results is the same. We tested on Pro-Soak. Again, generally, the result is the same. I mean, in short summary, because of there's like a spike peak of the oxygen uptake rate, as you can see on the graph. What it means that our products are biodegradable. And also, it doesn't have any impact. It could cause any issue with the activated slush process. Currently, this number happened to be just kind of match what we try to get into the market. Currently, our technology, the range of product, we can use it to replace roughly close to 15% of the traditional chemical that currently is using in the leather processing industry. Oops. Okay. So what that translates here is this. I think you're all familiar with the carbon footprint. Now, what is impact to environment? I'm not chemical engineering, so I basically grabbed this from some reference. So every square meter of leather produced typically generate roughly about 6.51 kilogram of carbon. Okay, imagine if we can replace those traditional chemicals that used in the process by 15%, means that there's that additional of 0.97 kilogram of carbon footprint direct reduction. So I think that because our technology is so unique, hopefully I think we can figure out a way to be able to use our product to replace more of the traditional chemical for leather processing industry. Okay. Let's see. I think that's the last slide. So thank you very much.
Dziękujemy. Jest jeszcze parę minut. Jeśli ktoś będzie miał pytania, to prosimy. We have some few minutes yet. Jest ktoś z Państwa chętny na pytania? To dziękujemy. Thank you very much, Dr. Siwan. Thank you.
Okay.